The clash of cultures and the start of a tragic war. In the annals of history, few wars exemplify the clash between two worlds as starkly as the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879. On one side stood the British Empire, a global superpower, driven by a sense of manifest destiny, expansion, and the industrialized military might that had conquered vast stretches of the globe. On the other side was the Zulu Kingdom, a proud and disciplined warrior nation, steeped in tradition and led by a formidable king who had no desire for war, but was compelled to defend his people's sovereignty. The Anglo-Zulu War wasn't just about territory or resources. It represented a deeper, tragic conflict between two cultures with fundamentally different views of power, leadership, and honor. For the British, victory seemed inevitable, backed by rifles, artillery, and modern military strategies. For the Zulus, however, the war was not just about survival. It was about defending a way of life that had endured for generations, a fight for ancestral land, and a battle to preserve their unique cultural identity. As we delve into the events that led to the Anglo-Zulu War, the key moments of the conflict, and its aftermath, we will also uncover the personal stories of bravery, honor, and sacrifice from both sides. In this story, we learn that war is not only fought with weapons, but also with hearts and minds. 1. Setting the stage for conflict. The stage for the Anglo-Zulu War was set in the late 19th century, when the British Empire sought to consolidate its power in southern Africa. The discovery of diamonds and other resources brought European settlers into conflict with the indigenous peoples, including the powerful Zulu kingdom under King Cetshwayo. Despite the relative peace between the Zulus and British for some time, the growing expansionist desires of British colonial officials like Sir Henry Bartle Frere could no longer be contained. At this point, the British Empire was eager to subjugate the Zulu kingdom, seen as the last significant indigenous power in the region. The pretext for the war was manufactured through a series of border incidents, giving the British a thinly veiled justification to invade Zululand. But why did the British, with all their advanced weaponry and resources, see the Zulus as such a threat? The answer lies not only in the Zulu warriors' renowned martial prowess, but in the symbolic power the kingdom held over the region. The Zulus had developed a formidable military tradition under King Shaka, with disciplined soldiers trained in the art of war from a young age. This was a kingdom that refused to be easily subdued, and the British saw them as a roadblock to their imperial ambitions. 2. The British advance and the Zulu response. As British forces marched into Zululand, they were confident of a quick victory. The arrogance of Lord Chelmsford, the British commander, would soon prove costly. He believed that the Zulu forces were primitive and disorganized, thinking that British firepower would crush any resistance with ease. What Chelmsford didn't understand was the deep military strategy and the spiritual connection the Zulus had to their land and ancestors. Zulu warriors were not just soldiers. They were defenders of their culture, land, and heritage. They were deeply connected to their traditions, and their bravery came from a profound belief in their ancestors' spirits. In their view, fighting was a sacred duty, and victory or death on the battlefield was a path to honor. The first major encounter at Izandlwana would shock the world. Despite being heavily outnumbered and relying on older weapons, the Zulu army outmaneuvered and overwhelmed the British forces, using their time-honored tactic, the horns of the bull. This tactic, created by Shaka Zulu, involved a frontal attack to engage the enemy, while the flanks would encircle and crush them. The result was a devastating loss for the British, with over 1,300 of their troops killed in a single day. 3. personal stories from the battlefield, courage, and sacrifice. At this point, it's important to pause and reflect on the personal stories of those who fought in the battle. History often paints wars in broad strokes, but behind every victory or defeat are individuals with their own stories of bravery, fear, and sacrifice. One such story is that of Charles Pope, a British officer who found himself face to face with the Zulu warrior in the heat of battle. Despite the chaos around him, Pope stood his ground, firing his revolver until the last moment, when he was mortally wounded by a Zulu spear. His death, like that of many others, symbolized the bravery and determination on both sides. On the Zulu side, there are countless stories of warriors who fought with unmatched courage. These were men who had undergone intense initiation rituals and training from a young age, believing that their fight was for the survival of their people. After the battle, the Zulu warriors followed their customs by disemboweling their fallen enemies, a ritual meant to release the spirits of the dead so they wouldn't haunt the living. These stories are important because they remind us that war is not just about strategies and tactics. It's about real people fighting for their beliefs, their land, and their futures. 4. The British retaliation and the fall of the Zulu kingdom. While the Zulus won a decisive victory at Isandlwana, the British Empire was far from defeated. News of the loss sent shockwaves through Britain, and a second, larger invasion was quickly mobilized. This time, the British came prepared with overwhelming firepower, including Gatling guns and artillery, to counter the Zulu tactics. The final stand of the Zulu forces came at the Battle of Ulundi, where the British encircled the Zulu warriors and unleashed a devastating barrage of gunfire. The Zulus, despite their bravery, could not withstand the onslaught. Their capital was captured, and King Cetshwayo was taken prisoner. The Zulu kingdom was dismantled, divided into smaller chiefdoms under British control. Cetshwayo, who had fought so hard to defend his people, was exiled. When he returned years later, he found a fractured kingdom, its former power shattered. The broader impact of the Anglo-Zulu War on colonial Africa. The Anglo-Zulu War was not an isolated event, but part of a broader series of conflicts that reshaped southern Africa during the late 19th century. The war had profound implications for the Zulu kingdom, but its repercussions were felt across the region, influencing colonial policies and the lives of countless African communities. For the British, the war was a significant reminder of the challenges of colonial expansion. While the British Empire was successful in subjugating the Zulu kingdom, the cost of the war, both in terms of lives and resources, was a stark lesson in the dangers of underestimating indigenous forces. This experience would inform future colonial campaigns, where the British sought to avoid the costly mistakes made during the Anglo-Zulu War. The defeat of the Zulus also paved the way for the further expansion of British control in southern Africa. With the Zulu kingdom dismantled and King Cetshwayo captured, the British were able to exert greater influence over the region. Zululand was partitioned, and its people were subjected to British colonial rule, marking the end of one of the last significant indigenous powers in southern Africa. However, the Zulus' defeat also highlighted the limitations of military force in achieving lasting control over indigenous populations. Despite their military victory, the British found it difficult to fully assimilate the Zulu people into their colonial system. The Zulu identity remained strong, and their cultural traditions continued to thrive, even under British rule. This resilience would eventually play a role in the broader resistance movements that emerged across Africa during the 20th century, as indigenous peoples fought for independence from European colonial powers. Conclusion: The legacy of the Zulu Kingdom. As we look back on the Anglo-Zulu War, we see the tragic consequences of colonialism and the destruction it brought to indigenous peoples across the world. Yet, we also see the incredible bravery and resilience of the Zulu people, who, despite their defeat, left a lasting legacy that continues to inspire. In telling this story, we honor both the Zulu warriors who fought for their homeland and the British soldiers who fought with valor in a far-off land. Their stories remind us that history is not black and white, but filled with shades of human experience, both heroic and tragic. The story of the Zulu Kingdom may have ended in 1879, but its legacy lives on, a testament to the enduring power of culture, tradition, and the human spirit.